Sometimes cards in the anime are way too overpowered to be printed in real life, unless they give some major changes. We already have some examples of that with cards such as the Egyptian God cards, Crush Card Virus, or even Card of Sanctity. So here are a few cards that I think are unprintable in the current state that they were shown in the anime. Starting off, we have Ivy Bind Castle. Ivy Bind Castle is a continuous spell card used by Yuri in Arc 5. This card was used in his duel against Yugioh Sakaki in the 133rd episode of Arc 5. The reason this card is pretty much unprintable is that it's almost as bad as the infamous Mystic Mine, in a toxic kind of way. Well, actually, you can argue that it's actually worse. It's an in-archetype floodgate for Predaplants that can, first of all, negate all effects on your opponent's side of the field. Second of all, it disables your opponent's ability to attack, and also burns for 800 points of damage for each monster on your opponent's side of the field. So you kinda get a one-sided Mystic Mine and a free burning effect. The only thing that's really balancing this card is the fact that the player who's using it has to tribute one Predaplant monster on his turn. That's really the only cost this card has. But even having it for one turn could basically just neutralize your opponent, unless they can negate it. There is an out to this card, as shown by Yusho in his duel against Yuri. It mostly affects cards on the field, so cards in your hand or graveyard are safe from this effect, so there's at least a way out of it. That being said, since it's a powerful free floodgate, I doubt this card would ever get printed, unless they made some heavy changes. Following this card is Judgment Arrows. This card in the Reigns anime is primarily used by the antagonists after the first season of Reigns. So we have Lightning, Bowman, Haru, and I all using this card. It's mostly associated with Lightning though, since some of his monsters can actually interact with this card, such as his Link monster, Armatus Legio Plumum Trident, who can actually add Judgment Arrows from the deck or graveyard to his hand if it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard. In any case, I think this is the only card in existence from every Yu-Gi-Oh media to be a spell card with Link arrows. It's pretty obvious why this card could never be printed, because not only does it give an easier access for Link monsters, but also gives Link monsters double the attack during damage calculations. It does have the downside, however, that if it ever leaves the field, all the monsters that were in the position where the Link arrows pointed to are destroyed. Also, the only way to activate this card is for a Link monster to be pointing downwards where a spell and trap zone was located. Even with those restrictions, I do still feel like this card would see a lot of play. It's a generic support card for any deck that mostly uses Link monsters. Decks such as Salamangreat, Marincess, or even Sun Avalon would get a huge boost from this card. It's a card that really makes it unfair for any other type of extra deck mechanics, so for those reasons I really think they won't print this card. But who knows, they may surprise me and prove me wrong, but the only way I see it is that they need to put a lot more restrictions on this card to even consider printing it. For the next card, I have Spell Sanctuary. This card used by Kaiba in the Battle City Finals duel against Yugi is a card that would immediately break the game. Not only is it a powerful searcher for any spell card in your deck for both players, but it transforms any spell card to a quick play spell card. This means that you can pull off some crazy stuff if you really think about it, but imagine you could set your cards such as Harpy Feather Duster, Rageki, Triple Tactus Trust, or even stuff like Branded Fusion during your opponent's turn. The possibilities are endless. Nonetheless, it's a crazy card that I actually find that it could be pretty fun to use, since it does affect both players. It's a card that kinda creates an alternate rule that can change your strategies. It's a bit fairer than some of the other cards in here, but it's definitely unprintable for having such a powerful effect. The next cards are actually a 2-for-1, Nibelung's Ring and Nibelung Treasure. They're both used by Siegfried von Schreider in the Duel Monsters anime, and these two cards are definitely cards that could only appear in the anime. First of all, the Nibelung's Ring allows you to stun one of your opponent's monster. It cannot attack, be tributed, or change its battle position, nor activate its effects. However, the control of the monster equipped with the ring is able to draw 2 cards per draw phase, but if they draw a monster or monsters with this card's effect, they must discard one of them. This card on its own isn't that bad, since with today's metagame, the monster with the equipped card would eventually just get sent away to the graveyard via Link Summon or Synchro Summon or Exceed Summon, and the draw 2 and discard 1 monster card among them is actually very generous for your opponent. It's just an easy way to lock one of your opponent's monster. The part that is very abusable is actually when you pair it with its other spell card, Nibelung's Treasure. When you activate Nibelung's Treasure, you can activate one Nibelung's Ring from your deck to your opponent's side of the field, equipping it to a monster they control. Then you can draw 5 cards, just like that for free. A combo like that provides way too much card advantage. These cards are like an engine that I could see being played, with a ratio of 3 Nibelung's Treasure and 1 Nibelung's Ring, providing a little bit more consistency and no dead draws. It's really such an absurd effect. I can only see being printed if they put more restrictions and less benefits. Following this up, we have Underworld Circle. I really think this is one of the craziest cards I've ever seen, and surprisingly, it's used by Yugi in his second duel against Raphael during the Waking the Dragons arcs. Seems like a lot of crazy cards are from filler arcs. So, when this card is activated, it destroys all monsters on the field and banishes all monsters in both players' deck. I only read the first line of the effect and it's already pretty crazy. It's like an Infernal Tempest without any conditions to activate it. It really just gets rid of every monster in both players' deck and field. The only monsters at your disposal are the ones that are in your hand or graveyard, and this was probably made on purpose, because it's a very fitting card to use against Raphael, since his sole gimmick was that he didn't want his monsters to hit the graveyard. Using this card pretty much leaves him without any monsters to use. That being said, the rest of the effect goes as follows. Once per turn, each player can special summon one monster from their graveyard. While this card is on the field, you can ignore the summoning conditions required for normal and special summons. And when a monster normal or special summoned by this effect is destroyed, you remove it from play instead of sending it to the graveyard. It will make sense why Yugi would use this card in the context of the story, in which Raphael did let some of his monsters touch the graveyard, but with a card as powerful as this one, he can really make a whole strategy reliant on this card. It's like a Dimensional Fissure, an Infernal Tempest, and a card that allows you to summon pretty much anything from your hand. Now I arrive to the last card I want to talk about. And I picked this card mostly because it is quite ridiculous. The card Gladiator Beast Assault Fort is such an anomaly. Even among anime cards, I think this one takes the cake as being the pinnacle of what we call an anime card. This card is used by the Battle Beast in Arc 5. And side note, the Battle Beast arc in the anime is probably one of the worst things that has ever come out of it. So what makes this card so ridiculous? Well, first of all, it literally has 2 text boxes on a trap card, and within this trap card, it technically has an effect of a continuous spell card inside of it. Alright, so sit back, relax, cause this is gonna be a long one. So, first of all, you can activate this card when you take battle damage involving a Gladiator Beast monster. Seems normal so far. Destroy all cards you control except Gladiator Beast cards. All other face-up Gladiator Beast cards in your spell and trap zone become continuous spell cards, named Gladiator Beast Assault Fort, with the effect listed below. That's the second text box. Alright, then choose a number of Gladiator Beast monsters from your deck equal to the number of other Gladiator Beast Assault Fort you control and place one of them underneath each other Gladiator Beast Assault Fort. This kind of just lost me, to be honest. If this card is destroyed, you can destroy as many cards you control as possible, and if you do, activate one Gladiator Beast Great Fortress from your hand, deck, or graveyard. Now that was just the first part of the effect, let's go over the second one. Now it's the effect of the continuous spell card inside the trap card. Once per turn, you can shuffle one card underneath this card into the deck, already with the cards underneath each other. That's kinda... I mean, Exceed Summoning is a thing, I guess. Inflict 1000 damage to your opponent. Simple burn effect. Once per turn, if this card has no cards underneath it, you can place one Gladiator Beast monster from your deck underneath this card. Once per turn, during either player's turn, you can target one Gladiator Beast monster you control and activate one of these effects. If the targeted monster battles, it cannot be destroyed by that battle. Also, you take no battle damage from that battle. If the targeted monster is targeted by a card effect, it cannot be destroyed by that effect. So it has a burn effect and protection effect from battle and card effect. I don't know why, but it kind of feels like it does a lot but nothing at the same time. But this is honestly such a ludicrous card that could only show up in the anime. And to be honest, it's one of the few times I'm glad this card would never get printed. We already have problems with text in the real world. So imagine if they actually made this card into a real thing. I think I would just completely quit the game. So that's it for the few cards I wanted to talk about that are just plain unprintable in the state that were shown in the anime. Obviously, with so many ridiculous cards in the anime, I probably missed a few, so feel free to mention them in the comments down below. Anyway, as always, thanks for watching and see you next time.